7 years old, I became homeless. I started living in the streets. Do you want to be adopted? 3 days before the adoption and Christmas Eve, we find out that he got killed by opposite gang members. So I started blaming it on God. I was like, if his name is in it, that means God has something to do with it. So it's his fault. And at the same time, it was so much through my mind it was going on because like I'm connected with the gang and everything. So I'm hearing that a bunch of my homeboys back in the country are getting killed because of me and like that they are looking for me.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Call Her Holy. I'm Laura Eldridge.
No, I'm Nicoletta Bradley.
We got a fire guest for y'all today.
Okay, but first, I need to address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
What is with the espresso martini?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Clearly don't know your wine glasses. This is not a martini glass. This is a red wine glass, and I'm very particular about my red wine glasses. No, I am straight up drinking a protein shake out of my wine glass because it's just a vibe, y'all. I'm just telling you, if you're not drinking your protein shakes out of a wine glass, you're missing a really good element of life that just makes you feel good.
Okay, so we're classy. Also, I love your sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Y'all,
Worthy Co.
It's the best.
They're straight up so dope. Their mission is amazing. Their stuff is so cute. So we need to just stop and shout them out because
No, literally. So Worthy Co., if you don't know what that is, they are based in Fort Worth. Fort Worth is the best. It's way better than Dallas. Don't push back on me on that. But literally, the Worthy Co. is a really proud sponsor of Call Her Holy. And what they do is that they're a nonprofit, shout out, but they create jewelry. They have cute sweatshirts. They do candle making. And they employ and empower survivors of trafficking.
Come on.
And so
trafficking and sexual exploitation. So 100% of proceeds go towards empowering these women who are literally have survived some of the most horrific things, and they are straight up baddies. They're amazing.
And they help them rebuild their lives. And so we will link all their information in the show notes. They are fantastic. I know the owner, Mel, is just the best. She goes to my church, but they have changed lives in Fort Worth, and they are cute earrings, cute necklaces, cute hoodies.
Yeah, let's get a moment for those earrings. They're so cute.
Oh, yeah.
My
Show
necklace
them,
is
bro. Come on.
Franklin knows what's up. Yo, we haven't introduced our guest.
I know, yeah.
But listen, Franklin did compliment my necklace. We sat down and he's like, I like that one with the heart.
Yeah.
I didn't
It's
do your
cute.
accent that
Yeah.
great, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, zoom in a
It's
little
cute.
bit.
I'm going to have to give one for my wife, too. Yeah.
Franklin, where are you from?
I'm mixed. I'm part Puerto Rican and part Salvadorian. So
this is Franklin Rivas Hodge. This is the worst introduction we've ever had, but you know what? The
Hey,
best
what up?
guest, maybe.
Exactly.
Come on, that's what I'm
Franklin,
talking
welcome
about.
to the podcast.
Thank you.
Nicoletta wants to know your heritage, but we also want to know your story.
No, it was actually really funny because I was like, Laura, there's this guy that you want to be on the podcast. She goes, who? And I'm like, he has dreads. And she's like, I have no idea. So I did a deep dive on social media because I couldn't remember his name. Laura's just promoted the heck out of you, telling you that you've got the craziest, coolest God flex of a story.
Yeah.
So I'm on Instagram yesterday for about 15 minutes trying to find a picture of you. I'm like, I don't know his name, but I know he has dreads. So I'm on the porch Instagram, finally found you in a reel, but not in the reel. You were on the cover of the reel. So then I take a picture of the cover of the reel, zoom it in, screenshot, send to Laura. I'm like, this is the guy. And she
I'm
goes,
like, oh yeah,
done.
Franklin. Yeah, of course I've been trying to get him on here for forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited because she's been hyping you up, Franklin.
Oh,
She has told me
appreciate
that God has just done incredible things in your story. And so I'm excited just for our listeners to hear your story, for me to hear your story.
Yeah.
I know Laura's heard it, but just really, really grateful that you're here.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm pumped to be here, honestly. So I really appreciate it for both of y'all, just the invitation and getting the chance to be here, honestly.
And Franklin, we met at Watermark.
Yeah.
Really through Colby, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You
and Unashamed.
and Unashamed.
Yeah.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah.
So Unashamed was the weekend retreat, I guess, that I led at Watermark my last couple years there.
Yeah.
And it basically teaches you how to share the gospel without being weird.
Yeah.
And really like inspires you to live a life radically of like sharing how your life has been changed through Jesus. And so we got to make through that. You were like the total stud.
Oh yeah.
So thankful that that we got connected through that. But when Colby met you, I remember him coming home and saying, I just met this guy and I have to tell you his story. it was like 500 hours the first time he told me. So we got to work on condensing a little bit. But like, I have to tell you. And so it was really cool to just hear Colby so stoked about what God was doing in your life, and then to get to meet you, and like y'all are boys, and now you're married to the most beautiful wife.
When did you get married?
8 months ago.
Oh my gosh, congrats.
Thank you.
Love.
Yeah.
Your wedding was gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
So swaggy.
Yeah. It was just perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah.
Tell us your story and tell us where you are now. Nicoletta, like, basically she doesn't
I know nothing
much.
about you. I found you on Instagram yesterday, and now you're in the podcast studio. So I am like, I will probably be the one being like, whoa. What the frick? I don't understand this. Let's track it back.
Yeah,
and so I'm super excited.
Yeah, and feel free to like literally ask any questions that you think that like it would be good for listeners, like that. Yeah, just bring some clarity, because I know that the timing on it is we have a time, so I'm gonna try to make it.
You just live so much life.
Yeah, exactly.
And you came to know Jesus kind of recently.
Yeah.
Like how many years? 3 years ago.
3 years, 4
which
years
is around
ago.
when we met.
Yes.
So when you walked in, it was super fresh.
Yeah,
Everything was super fresh. It was really cool.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things in life is getting a front row seat to watching somebody's life change when you catch them fresh, you know?
Yeah.
Or even if they've known Jesus and then they're like just now given a vision of what it looks like to walk full devotion to Jesus. This is so sweet.
Yeah.
You start watching maturity happen. You start watching chains fall off. You start watching like peace. You start watching joy just come on their faces. I mean, it's just so sweet. So it's been really cool to watch you even step up into a leadership position and be like, I am radically sold out for the Lord, and now there is nothing going to stop me from telling everyone that I've ever met about this God that I know.
Even if I lead them to a Mormon church.
Yeah. Okay, there's a story. I had this entire long plane conversation. That's funny that you remember that. I had this entire long plane conversation where I shared the gospel with somebody, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. We are like tracking the entire 2-hour plane ride. And then she finds me at baggage claim afterwards to say thank you for this conversation. She's like, Laura, I just needed to say thank you so much. You have really encouraged me to get plugged back deeper into the Mormon church. And I'm like,
you're like, no.
Because they use a lot of the same language and they, anyways. Yeah. I literally tracked her. I felt that for like years. It was on my conscience of what do I do? But I'm like, God, you got it. I am praying for this lady. I'm trying to hunt down. I'm like, I'm next to calling the airlines to figure out who this lady is so I can be like, it's not the Mormon church. That's not the answer.
Yeah, I bring that up because I literally had the same conversation with somebody and ended up leading somebody to the Mormon church. And literally,
we need a whole episode on like Mormonism because it can be really confusing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and the first one that came to mind it was you. I was like, oh my, like
I just pulled a Laura.
Laura, I've done it. I know what it feels like. You think that you crush it and everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So,
oh my gosh.
funny.
Okay, well, this episode is not meant to drive you into the Mormon church. So if it does, come find us because we got some stuff to talk about.
Or Laura will find you.
Yeah. We'll track you down just the way that Nico did it with me. So
come on.
We'll find you.
We are professional stalkers up in here.
Yeah, literally. So.
Franklin, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 25.
Okay, yeah. I want to hear like, man, can you start at the beginning of like how, I mean, it sounds like you've had
Start at little baby Franklin.
Yeah,
okay.
Little baby Frank.
Yeah. So, and we're doing it in Spanish, correct?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So,
Sí.
Okay, so, cuando estaba nene.
¿Puedes hablar en español?
Sí.
Do you know what I just asked?
Sí. I know one word.
That. Yeah.
I love Spanish. It's a fun fact. I literally love.
I suck at it. Like it is. I took it so many years in high school, failed every single time. It is pathetic how bad I am.
Hey, that's how my wife feels. But
no muchacho.
Yeah,
no
muchacho.
No español muchacho. Sí.
Yeah. Sí. Yeah. But yeah, we'll make it quick. But I was born in PR, Puerto Rico. And then moved to El Salvador whenever I was little. Didn't grow up with my parents. I found a letter from my dad that him telling my mom that she needed to abort me whenever they find out that that my mom was pregnant with me. because my dad didn't want a kid at the time. And so he gave her the option of like, hey, you either do an abortion or I'm leaving. And so obviously she didn't.
Clearly.
Which I'm
Praise
grateful.
God. I mean, that's
yeah.
huge.
Yeah, literally, because I mean, we were just talking about it and how much that's now huge and
Common.
in our time. Yeah. And so, and especially where she grew up and like she's from, like that's normal. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm pregnant. I don't want it. I'll just do an abortion, and it's nothing from a different world. You know what I mean? And so,
And we'll pause and say, if that's been part of your story, God redeems.
amen.
There's
Yeah.
so many friends who that's been part of their story, and there can be a lot of shame around that. And God loves you. God is not mad at you.
Yeah.
There is hope for you, and you can use your story to help set other people free and help other people make different decisions.
Amen. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, so that was one of the first things that I found out about who my dad or who my mom was, you know, and quickly after that, like around 5, like I mean the earliest memories that I have, which is sad, but it is what it is. It's me being abused, me being sexually abused by family members. And so I didn't know at the time that wasn't okay. I thought it was just normal. And so at 3-4 years old, those are the early memories. Like a 5-year-old, I remember me asking and starting to ask like, hey, like, who's my mom? Where's my mom? Because I grew up with my grandma. So I kind of, at school in kindergarten, like I kind of started putting it together. Hey, like the mom of that guy is younger than my mom, which was my grandma. So that's where I was like, okay, who's my mom? Where's my mom at? And didn't get answers. And so that's where I started more like digging more into it and didn't find answers. So I started kind of like it was like a mirror. Like I started looking into myself. Okay, who am I and what is wrong with me? The reason why my mom left me or why my dad didn't want me, right? And so from an early age, I started making statements about myself of I'm not worth it, I'm messed up, like something's wrong with me, and that's the reason why they don't want me or my family don't want me. And so grew up like that at 6 years old. I started kind of like pushing harder into trying to find out who my family was or like who my mom and my dad was, and that's whenever I find the answer that my mom had left the country and left me with my grandma. And so that hurt me a lot. And that, like, knowing that my mom had left me, that's all I heard. I didn't hear the part of, like, she left because she wanted to give you a better life and she wanted to provide for you, because in the country that I was growing up, wasn't much of that. Like, there wasn't many opportunities for a young lady trying to provide for a kid. You know what I mean? Like, to give him a different life than the one that she grew up on. And so that part, I didn't hear it at all. All I heard, it was she left me, she didn't want me, and now I'm being abused, and this is who I am now. And I mean, at early age, I made statements about who I was that I believed for the rest of my life, even though they weren't real. But I made them in an early stage. So that changed kind of my life. From that moment on, I was like, I put the first statement in my mind of like, I'm not worth it. And I'm just a piece of trash that deserves nothing but to be hurt. And so being abused, I got abused again at 7 years old. And that was one of my biggest, out of all the times that I've been sexually abused, that was like the biggest one. And so that kind of drove a lot of anger and just a lot of insecurities and kind of like made me build a lot of walls against people. And obviously, that's the one thing that with family is not just blood, but family is a relationship, and just literally how it's being with God, how it is with God. Like, God wants a relationship with us, in the same way it's like with family, we have to build a relationship with them. Like, we have to, I mean, with your daughter, like, you want to make her feel safe, right? Like, you want to make that room to for her to be able to feel that she's the only one that matters, like that she's so safe that she can tell you no matter what, like she can say that and don't even think of like, hey, like question anything about herself or her worth or who she is. And my family didn't create that because they didn't know it. They didn't grow up that way. And so I didn't had a safe space to be able to share with them, oh, I'm being abused, or like this person is touching my private parts in this way, like, is that okay? Or hey, like, I'm feeling like this towards my mom, or like I think like this is wrong. I didn't have none of that growing up. My grandma loved me, my aunts loved me the best I could, like, and now I see that. Back then I didn't. And so that's something that it really hurt me, like, now looking back, that I didn't let them love me because I didn't know how to be loved. And I didn't know what truly love was until like I became a Christian and started learning the love that God has for us, you know? And so obviously kind of touching on God, I didn't grow up a believer. I knew like some about God, Jesus, because like my family was Catholic. So I kind of knew religion. That's what I knew. And so I, from the beginning, I start hearing that, hey, you got to do this, you got to do this. Like, you got to confess, everything that you got to do in order to be good with God. And so I was like, I don't think I can do all of that. I'm already messed up and everything. So God doesn't like me, like from the get go. And so, moving forward with it, like that happened at 7 years old. I became homeless. I started living in the streets, and I was being beat up in the streets all the time by drunk people or anything. People that were just anger, and so I was kind of like the perfect target for them. And at 9 years old, something else happened that kind of switched my world. One of my uncles that had shown interest on me and like knew kind of what was going on. He called me Papa, which it means like dad in English, but that's like a word that they use to kind of like just kind of how y'all using here honey towards your or darling towards your kid. So he called me something like that because he wanted to adopt me. And so that was the first time, like after like 9 years of kind of just darkness in my life, I was like, okay, somebody wants me.
Yeah.
Like somebody has seen me and I got something. And then for Christmas, that was gonna be my Christmas present, the adoption. And so it brought a lot of hope in me. Like I started kind of like getting close to my family again, and I started kind of like trying, you know. And so 3 days before the adoption and Christmas Eve, we find out that he got killed by opposite gang members. And so that kind of just rocked my world, and all the hope, all the everything that I had kind of like imagined in my life and that I had thought like, oh, like this could be, it was just taken away right away. And that part, I heard my grandma praying in a way, or like just saying, oh God, like why, like the name of God was brought up into this whole scenario. So I started blaming it on God. I was like, if his name is in it, that means God has something to do with it, so it's his fault. And so I started pointing all that towards God, and I started distancing myself from God. And so that happened quickly. After that, I got abused again, sexually abused again. And that was just enough for me to like I had a lot of anger. And at that time in the town that I grew up, gangs at the moment were like just boiling like water. Like it was so much and it was everywhere. And excuse me, I had an uncle that was in the gangs as well. So every time I saw him, he had guys with him. He had a gun. He had respect. People respected him. Like people were afraid of him, and he had money. He had pretty much everything that I was like, hey, like that seems appealing. And plus, like that seems like a family. Like they seem like brothers, and I never had a brother and never had a family, and the only person that wanted me is now gone. And I don't even know if they are for real gone. I don't know if they just left because they don't want me, because that's all I know, right? Like people that pretend to be my family, they ended up leaving me. So something must be wrong with me. Again, like in the mirror, like just watching myself, like something's wrong with me. It's not that like that really happened, but it's myself. And so, excuse me, like 10 years old, got in the gangs, or before 10, got in the gangs, and I got in one of the biggest gang in the whole world. And so that pretty much sold my life to them. And I started doing everything that you do in the gangs, like selling drugs, hurting people, uh, trafficking, guns, or whatever you gotta do. And so, start doing it since 10, and did it for a while, and then I ended up getting caught with some drugs and everything. Went to prison, and the prison system in a third world country is different than it is in here, especially for minors. And since I at this point I already had gang tattoos on me. So as soon as I got caught, they saw the gang tattoos, and so they were like, "Oh, you. It's not a discipline problem, but it's a you choose to be in a gang, and now your life is sold to the gang. So now we're gonna treat you like it." And so they treat me like grown up already, and I was only 10 years old. So I went to prison for a while, and then came out of prison. And then whenever I came out of prison, I did like 2 years and 11 months. Came out, and then I came out with a higher position in the gang. So I had more power.
You had more street cred, more, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, I bet, like, instead of me thinking I want to go out, I was like, no, I want to be an OG. Like, whatever
At 13.
At 13, yeah.
Oh my
Whatever I
gosh.
got to do to be an OG, I'm going to do it. Like, that's my goal. And so went deep into it, did everything that I got to do. And I lost a lot of people, a lot of friends through it. And that drove me. I lost a pretty important person in my life at 13, and he died in my arms. He got shot right in front of me. Bullets that were meant to be for me hit him, and I got shot once in that shooting, and that rocked my world, and that changed everything. Like I felt like anger towards God, or like kind of like I already felt some type of way towards God. After that scenario, I hated God. Like, hatred come towards God, came towards regular people. Like, I was like, hey, if you're not part of my gang, then I hate you, like, automatically. And it was just a lot of, like, not even anger. It was just hatred because of that person dying in my arms. And it was the first time, I mean, I had seen people getting killed or getting hurt or getting tortured, but not like one of my dear friends like getting killed and dying in my arms, especially for bullets that were meant for me. And that person wasn't in the gangs. So that changed everything, and I seek revenge after him, and that led me to going back to prison. So I went back to prison. I was facing lifetime in prison at 13 years old. I was like, I don't care. Like, I did what I had to do. My friends, my homeboys, my gang is proud of me. So I'm good. And so if I gotta be here for the rest of my life, it's better than being outside, because outside I can get killed literally at any time, at any hour. And here I at least have faith to make it through 18, because I didn't know many people that made it through 18. And so, so I was like, I'm good. And I had kind of like said, we'll make it over here. I'm gonna become an OG being inside prison. And so had surrendered pretty much that to that. And then quickly after, or years after, somebody came to my cell, and they were like, hey, Franklin. And like, they say my name and everything and my code. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, you have court. You're being, how do you say, bunt out? Yeah. Like that they are paying,
Bail?
Yeah. Bailed
Okay.
out. Yeah. So somebody paid it. I got out. As soon as I got out, I was like, okay, I'm out. Like, I don't know how in the heck happened. I didn't question it. At that time, I was like, I'm out. Like, I supposed to be getting back to court, but forget that. I'm not going back to court, because the court was whenever I turned 17. And if you turn 17 over there, you're considered an adult already. So whenever you are in prison over there, like, they give you whatever time you are serving at 18 and up, like, you're gonna serve it. Like, there is no way for you to get bailed out or anything, like. And
Like,
so
once you're 18, like, you're in.
yeah,
Period.
you're gonna serve whatever time they have given you. And so since I was a minor, like, they allowed me to be bailed out, but they gave me the court at the time that I was gonna turn 17, so I could go back to prison. And so I kind of knew that, and I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to that court. So let's do whatever we gotta do. If I gotta run away for the rest of my life, I'm gonna run away. And so I got out, and first thing that I was like, okay, where's my gun? Where's my people? Where's my clique? Like, we're back in business. And so got right into it. A week after I got out, I found myself in the first shooting. Like, I was walking with my homeboys, and then out of nowhere, bullets coming by me, hitting by me, and everything. And I dropped myself, got behind a car, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" And then my homeboys, like, I think I knew it was two of my homeboys got hit, and so I was like, "Okay, this is like we gotta see." And so like we started a shooting, and then after that shooting, we ended up getting away. I didn't really look into it. I was just like, "Hey, I don't know what happened. We probably were in the wrong territory." And that's what happened because this was kind of like in the city. Um, but literally the next day, found myself in another shooting, and I was with a girl, and so I was walking down the street. I knew that the territory I was in, it was part of my gang, so I wasn't scared, and found myself in it, and that's whenever I was like, okay, what's going on? Like second day, second shooting, like something must be up, and then my uncle called me and gave me the word that there was a price in my head, because they had found out that I was out, and that like who I was and the reason why I went to prison and everything. And so they put a price in my head, and from that moment on, like literally every day I was in shootings probably like 3 times a day, from that moment on. And I got shot, I got stabbed, like I was in so many fights and everything. And that's where I knew, okay, like something has to change. And my uncle, he was like, dude, you gotta get out of the country. You gotta let this kind of cool down. You gotta get out. And I didn't want it to. I was like, hey, I have a gang tattoo that shows me where my destiny is, what my destiny is, and I'm living my life by it. And if I'm gonna get killed fighting for my gang, fighting for the family, for my brotherhood that I know, let it be. And so that's what I thought it was gonna happen. But my uncle was like, nope, you're getting out of here. That's whenever I came to the USA. And a lot of people ask me that. They are like, oh, so you flew here, you what? And I'm like, well, I was a criminal. I was a convict. So I could not go through borders legally because I had price in my head, and plus I was wanted. And so I had to walk here, swim across rivers, walked, get in trucks, jump out of trucks, got in trains, hop out of trains, and everything. And so that's the way that I got to the U.S. And so came here, and then came to the U.S. Didn't know nobody in here. I mean, didn't know anybody, didn't know the language, the culture, everything. It was just completely different because I grew up pretty much in the jungle. And
so you're 18.
No, I was 16.
16 at this point.
16,
okay,
about
gotcha.
to be 17. And so came here and got put like in a foster system since I was a minor and I didn't have a family or like that I knew. So they put me in it, was in it for a minute, and coming here as a 16, about to be 17, I'm a leader of the gang. And I had seen so much, done so much and everything that in my mind, I'm not a 16, 17 years old anymore. Like I'm 30 years old.
Yeah.
And got in a foster program with a bunch of kids that they are acting, trying to be gang members or like dealers or things like that. And I'm like,
you haven't seen anything.
Yeah, literally. And so I got in so many fights because of that, like them throwing gang signs, just because they thought that they were in it. And I've been in the part where like, hey, I see a different gang side that is not from my gang. I put a bullet on you. And like, that's how it was. And so whenever I came here and people were doing it at high school or like in the streets, just like nothing, I was like, oh my, like it was hard because I had to hold myself from doing crazy things that I shouldn't be doing in here because I knew that quickly find out that the government in here and the police in here was completely different than it was where I grew up, because where I grew up, the police was kind of like working for us in a way. So it wasn't really that big of a deal for us to do things and then be able to get away with it. And so came here, got in the foster system, and then found one of my aunts, and she started fostering me in a way. Like I went and lived with her, and she lived here in the Dallas area. So I came be part of a family or got put in a house where the last time I was in a house and slept in a bed and was kind of like inside, it was years ago. And so it was so hard to be like part of a family at 16 years old and living this normal life. Like I couldn't do it. And so I got in so much trouble. I ended up running away and I was homeless in Dallas for about 5 months, something like that. And then I ended up finding or met somebody that was in the gang with me or like part of the gang that I was in it, because the gang that I was in it started actually in the US and they're kind of like moved out outside the country. And so like that gang is like all over the US. And so like that person was being fostered by an American family. And so I met a family, and from the moment that I met them, I was like, man, there's different about them. We didn't speak the language. I didn't speak English. They didn't speak Spanish or any of the other languages. And so I was like, okay, like, but there's something different about them. I knew that they care about my friend, knowing that he was a gang member, knowing that he was a dealer, knowing that he's past and that he had hurt people and everything. So I was like, that's different. So on 2015, I came to America in 2014. 2015, there was like a huge Armageddon or something like that it got super cold and everything froze and like so many things happened like that. I mean, for Texas, that was huge.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Go Frogs. I remember I was stuck in my college dorm.
There we go. So,
yeah,
you were in a dorm. I was out in the streets under a bridge. And
Wow.
I felt like I was going to freeze to death. Like, literally,
Wow.
that was the time that I was homeless. And that's whenever I was like, hey, I need to find something. Like, otherwise, I'm going to die in the streets, like trying to find warm places because it was so cold. And I remember the family that my friend was with, and so I ended up sneaking into their house just because I wanted to be in somewhere warm. And so I sneak into their house for about a week and a half. I would sneak in, go up the stairs, and sleep under the couch. They had a couch in a living room upstairs, and I would sleep under it. So in case they came up or something, they wouldn't see me. And so I would come in like around 12, and then at 5 a.m. I would leave, like just so like they wouldn't see me or anything. Did that for like a week. And then a week and a half or something like that, I got caught going up the stairs. And she was like, Franklin? And like she kind of recognized me. She didn't. And so I didn't speak English. So first thought it was like police. I was like, no police, please. Like, no police. And reached to my pockets, got money out, and I threw it at her. And I was like, me. And like I started speaking in sign language in a way because I was like, I don't know, I don't know what,
police.
I was like, I don't know what else to say. Like,
No police, no policio. See?
Yeah, there we go. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
So I start saying that. I start saying things that I don't know why I said it, but I said it, and she ended up calling her husband, like because he was already in bed. And so whenever I heard that she was calling for him, I was like, oh my, I'm just gonna get shot right now. This is it. And so, but it didn't happen. Long story short to that, like they ended up asking about me and what was going on, why I was homeless, and because I was 17. And so that wasn't normal in here. And so they were gonna open a ministry called the House of Villa, and it was for guys that have been literally in situations that I was in, or have been incarcerated, or have been in foster system or CPS or
What a great house to break into.
Yeah, literally. And so they were like, hey, we're in 3 months, this house is gonna open, and it's literally you're it. Like that's the reason why we open in this house. And so you can stay with us 3 months, and then once the house open, you can transition to it. And I was like, I don't know what the heck you're saying, but all I can hear is that you're going to put a bunch of rules in me and that I got to follow, and I'm going to be part of a house where I'm going to have like things to follow and know that I won't be free. Mm-hmm. So that's all I could hear. So I was like, I can stay here the 3 months. Once that transition, they want that transition to happen, I will leave. So that happened. 3 months into it, there was so much rain that they couldn't open the house, so it pushed it back a month. And so that month came through, and at this time, I had been eating dinner with them or like with the family, hanging out with the family, and it so much had happened that I was like, this is so new to me. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Having a family, like,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
yeah.
and just eating in a table. Like, I had never ate in a table before, and
Wow.
being part of a family, eating in a table, real food in a table, and so all of that was so new. And 4 months into it, they were like, "Hey, like we like you. We have been doing this and everything. Like you are a fit for our family. Like, do you want to be adopted? Like, we want to adopt you. Like, would you want to be adopted?" And at the same time, it was so much through my mind it was going on because like I'm connected with the gang and everything. So I'm hearing that a bunch of my homeboys back in the country are getting killed because of me, and like that they are looking for me and blah blah. And so like I have all this going on that they knew like that I was wanting to live, but they knew that if I left, I was gonna get killed. And so they kind of asked like, what needs to happen in order for you not to go back? And so I kind of, without thinking, said like family. I want a family. That's all I ever wanted. It was a family, and my gang is the only family that I have. So I gotta go back and look after them and like come through for it because they are getting killed because of me. So now I gotta do it for them. And that's whenever they were like, okay, we want to adopt you. We want to be your family, and that triggered me because he reminded me of my uncle, and I was like, he wanted it to adopt me, and he either got killed or he left. But that could happen with you as well. Like, you want to adopt me, like whenever you really find out who I am, you're going to leave me or get killed somehow. And so at the beginning that was tough, but I ended up saying yes because I was like, why not? I mean, sooner or later they are going to leave. They are going to reject me or send me back, whatever. They are going to find out who really Franklin is, and then that's going to be it. And I'm cool with it because I've never had somebody that has a stick in my life all my life. So I'm used to people leaving or getting killed or rejecting me. So that's nothing new. So I say yes, but I didn't know that whenever I say yes, it was for real. Like this time it was for real. Lawyers were into it and everything. And then 3 months after I say yes to that, they came up with paperwork and they were like, sign here, sign over here. Who's your dad? Who's your mom? Blah, blah. I didn't speak English at this time, so I was just signing up a bunch of papers that I was like, I don't even know if I'm selling my life to you, but my life is already sold to the gang, so mine as well. And so I started signing all of that. One of the lawyers came up and he was like, hey, we found your biological mom, and she lives states away from you, and we need her to sign. We find your dad. He lives hours away from you because I was in Texas. I was in Texas. I was in Dallas. He was in Houston. And so I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, you're talking about my biological mom, like the one that gave birth to me, and you're talking about the dad that I have this letter from that wanted her to do abortion and me. Yeah. So like, cool, like nothing new, right? Like all these, like, I mean, I felt like that, but it was so much information that got dropped on me. And they were like, we got to go get their signatures in order for you to be adopted, legally adopted. And I was like, okay, sweet. And at this point, I never processed emotions, never in my life. Every time I felt something, I put it down and suppress it and went and did something, went partying or something. At this point, I got introduced into sex whenever I was 9 years old. So from the age of 9, I was having sex without thinking about it. Like, to me, that was just like you drinking water. Like, it was just another day, another thing. And so that was the way that I would get my emotions out. I would either do things like that or do anything that I thought it was just to get it out for the moment. And so so much of that happened, and the only one that I say yes is I want to meet my mom. Like, and then my dad, I had so much anger towards him that I was like, if I meet him, I'm gonna try to hurt him, and it's not gonna be good. And so when I met my mom at 17 for the first time, her signing off so I could be adopted, and I found out that I had a little brother. And so he came in and he was like, hey, like brother, called me brother and tried to hug me, and then my mom came and tried to hug me, and I was just like, oh, like don't touch me, don't hug me, because anytime that I have been touched or hugged, it's been whenever I've been physical abuse or sexually abused. So for
Wow.
me, touching it wasn't good. So that happened. Moving forward, like got it, ended up getting adopted, was put into high school, went to high school, got in so many fights because one, I was learning the language, and kids were being kids,
Yeah.
throwing gang signs and all this. So I was getting in fights all the time. And then I, again, like I hated God through all of this. And my family that I got adopted by, they are Christians. And so they would take me to church on Sundays, not knowing that I hated God. So I would go to church on Sundays. I didn't understood what the pastor was saying, so I was okay with going. I would just sit there and just like literally like fall asleep or just sit like that and start looking into people, judging and everything, judging at the pastor that I was speaking in front. And so that was my life. And so did that and became a professional athlete. I started fighting because that was like, hey, I've been doing it my whole life, and somebody wants to pay me for something that I've been doing my whole life. Why not? Let's do it. And so got professional on fighting, and then I started living a life that I was like, hey, I have this fame, I have like this money, I have all of this, I have everything that the world can offer, and I start forgetting about the gang. So I put the gang to the side, and I was like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm good. Like I need brands, I need cars, I need whatever it is, like I'll get it. And so forgot about everything else and just kind of like got caught up on that life. And but the gangs didn't forget about me. And one time, one of my biggest fight, they found me, and I was in New York, and literally it was so crazy because like I was in New York, and it was my biggest fight, and I found myself in a suite of a hotel in the morning, early in the morning, right after the fight. Money was laying everywhere. Girls were everywhere. Bottles of alcohol everywhere. Like it was crazy. And I woke up and I was able to see like the skyline of New York, and I was like, I made it. Like I did it. Like because of growing up tough and everything, I'm an underdog. 3 hours after I said that or so, I got a call from the gang. And they were like, hey, you got 24 hours to get to your parents' house. There's a car outside that if you don't get in 24 hours, you know what's going to happen.
And by this time, it was your parents who had adopted you.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
my
Who like
gosh.
the only people who have shown you true kindness.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And so I was like, all right. Like, what in the heck? Like, I just pretty much, in a way, made it. And now the gangs are back into my life. So went back, flew back, and got to the house. And they were outside my parents' house. So I showed up, and they were there. And then I ended up telling my dad what was going on. And he was beyond mad because I had been, as I said, I had been living a double life at this point that they didn't know about. And they thought I was out of the gang because I had completely forgotten about it. But that wasn't the case. So I ended up going to them, and I ended up getting blindfolded and how do you call it? Like
bound.
Handcuffed.
Yeah, and yeah, handcuffed. And
Handcuffed. So by the gang, like you, so
Yeah.
you literally like turned yourself in so that they wouldn't hurt your family.
hmm yeah,
So you walked home, told them what they were happening. You walked out of your front door. The car was out front, and then this random car handcuffed you.
yeah,
Following.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and these were like homeboys, like from the same gang, and yeah, everything. So, they put me in the trunk of the car, and there I was on my way to get killed because I knew that I had a green light on me. So, we went, and I was literally in that trunk of the car, couldn't see anything. It was all dark, and that was the first time that I prayed. Like now I know that I prayed. Back then I didn't know that I was praying. I just heard my family all the time before dinner or before any meal, or sometimes at nighttime, or whenever hard times were going on, they would just talk to Jesus. And so that's all I knew. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm in a tough position right now. And I was like, dude, Jesus, God, whoever you are, like whatever the the people that my family talks to, like whoever you are, if you know me, if you hear me, help me out. Like I don't want to get killed. Like for the first time ever in my life, I don't want to get killed. Help me. And I said that, and then it felt like a lifetime, and being in that trunk of the car, and my whole life flashed through my eyes. And we got to the point where we were going and got out, and then they were like, okay, walk until you feel the grass in your feet. And so I walked. I didn't know where I was, and walked towards it, felt the grass in my feet. It stopped, and I like my whole body was just tense, and I heard them like getting the guns and just putting bullets in it. And I was like, all right, this is it. Like, this is how far I made it. And then out of nowhere, a phone rings, and the dude picks it, starts talking, and then gets in the car, close the door. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm part of the gangs. I know how this works. Like, I know that if you don't want nobody to find out what happened, you're going to do this, you can do this, blah, blah. Like, I ran it in my mind how they were going to do it. And so the car
How they were
left.
going to kill you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so the car left, right? Like, and I was like, okay, at any moment, I'm going to hear the engine of the car. And 2 seconds after, I'm going to feel the heat, like just the car hitting me. And they're going to make it look like a run over or something like that. And never heard that car. Like, time passed by, and then I slowly start trying to get myself out of the handcuffs, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna remove and at this point I'm speaking it out loud. Every move that I'm doing, I'm speaking it, and I was like, I'm gonna remove the bandana off my eyes, like I'm gonna turn around, don't shoot me, like because probably they want me to do all of this, turn around, see who's gonna shoot me, and then they are gonna do it, just so I know that the last thing that I'm going to see is the person that is doing it. And so turn around, open my eyes, nobody was there. And I'm in the middle of like these like trees and dark and everything, and I'm like, what the heck? And I started looking around, drop myself in the floor, and I start kind of like crawling and just like, I don't know what. At this point, I don't know what am I doing. I'm just
crawling.
I'm just going somewhere to wherever I can go. I don't know where I am. So that happens. Ended up finding myself in a church, like the nearest place nearby. It was a church, and got there. The main pastor, or like whoever pastor of that church, was there, and he was like, "Hey, do you need help and everything?" I told him I told him to give me the phone of my family. So I ended up going back to my family, to my parents' house, and then I told them everything, like what was going on, everything. I dropped it, and they got so mad at me, and like they kicked me out pretty much of the house, because anytime that I would come to Texas, like I was with them, and so they were like, "You can no longer be here. We love you. We're your family. You're our son. That doesn't change or anything, but we can now have you in our house." And I was like, "Okay, bet." Just as I said, they were gonna reject me and leave me. And then I got in the car. I had everything in there, and I was like, okay, I'm going. I'm leaving. And then my phone rings, and they were like, all right. It was my homeboys. And he was like, as you can tell, you're still alive. And you're alive because somebody has put their hands in the fire for you. So you got two options right now. You got the option of becoming a Christian, changing your life, doing something.
Your gang is saying this.
My uncle, and he was an OG of the gang, and so he was like, "You got this option. This is the only option for you out of the gang."
Because I think, and this is where people probably don't understand, in the gangs, there's this deep respect for the church. It's kind of crazy. Like the only legit way out of a gang is through the church.
Christianity.
And people will fake it, and if they find you're faking it, like you're a dead man.
Yeah.
But like you can't get out of a gang unless you come to be a Christian.
Yeah.
So that I feel like that was backstory that's necessary. But like so they tell you
100%.
you can become a Christian or what?
Yeah, or you can get killed. Like you got 2 months, and they put a timer on me to like be able to see if I'm for real or if I'm not.
So it was your uncle holding them back.
Yeah.
So he was the one who called when you were out in the field about to die.
Yeah. That was him. He was the one putting his hands on the fire for me.
What does putting your hands on the fire mean?
His life.
Oh.
Yeah, his life is on the line. Like, okay, either there's two ways. Like either he's gonna get killed or he comes and kills me if something doesn't work out. And so because they knew that his family,
They would accepted that.
Yeah. So, and the reason why he did that is because he knew that at first he didn't want me to get in the gang at all, but I got in it around his back because he knew what it meant to be in the gang. And so he knew as well that the only reason that I got in the gang is because I wanted family, I wanted brothers, I wanted respect, I wanted this, it wasn't really because I wanted to hurt people, that it was only because of what comes out of the gang.
You wanted to be loved.
Exactly. And so that's what he was putting. And at this point, he knew that I was adopted, that I had a family, that I had potential to do a different life, to have a different life. And so that happened. He called and he was like, you got this or this, choose. And I was like, all right, I'll see you in whatever.
Jesus.
Yeah. I'll see you at church. 9 a.m.
See you on Sunday.
I'm going to be there at all 3 services.
I'll sleep outside if I have to. Wish that was the case, but that wasn't the case. I was like, I'll see you in whatever timing you're giving me. I'll see you then. You're going to kill me because I don't want Jesus.
You were so out on God.
Yeah. I was like, I don't want Jesus. I mean, you asking me to become a Christian is like you're asking me to join a different gang, which not happening. And so I hated God and kept on driving. And I was like about 30 minutes out from my parents' house on my way to Colorado, because out of USA, Colorado and Miami are the only 2 places that I like in USA. So I was on my way to Colorado, leave over there, and something in me, it was like, don't do it. Like, don't get killed. You're going to get killed. And
don't go to Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, turn around, go to your parents. Like, and just throw everything in the table and do whatever they say. Like, ask for help. I have never asked for help. And something in me said it. And so I couldn't shake it, drove for like 10 minutes. And all I can think of, it was like, I don't want to get killed. I need help. I don't want to get killed. I need help. So turned around, went to my parents' house, got there, threw everything in the table. Everything I own, threw it in there. And I was like, I need help. Like, help me. Please help me. I don't want to get killed. And I told them, these are my options. And my mom shared the gospel with me right then, told me who Jesus was and shared everything. I didn't understand it, but I was like, if you're telling me that dude Jesus is going to help me, like, and in my mind, Jesus is like somebody that I'm going to meet sometime at church. Like, I'm thinking like he's like for real there, because that's how they talk about him. Like, he's there with us and everything, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay, if this Jesus, like, I want him. Let's do it. Like, so I ended up accepting the gospel, like saying that I believe in him, because I have heard it all about him growing up in the Catholic Church and everything. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. So I started believing in him, but I didn't trust him. I never trusted nobody, because every time that I put my trust in something, I ended up getting abused somehow. So that's how I ended up in Watermark, because my brother had done regeneration in Watermark. And I came to Watermark. My mom, she was like, do whatever your brother says. If you do whatever your brother says, then we'll help you. I was like, why? He gets to decide what am I doing? Like, that's not fair. And so he took me to Watermark, regeneration on Monday. Funny enough, Colby is in front stage speaking, sharing his testimony, what's going on with him. And I'm like, how in the heck and why the heck is that person right there so happy, telling them how messed up he is and telling everybody the addictions that he has had. Never heard nobody say, oh, I struggle with porn, I struggle with this, and so happy about it, just letting you know, like in front of thousands of people. And I'm like, that's so strange. And I looked at my brother, I was so mad at him for bringing me to that place. And I was like, do you think I'm that messed up? Like, come on now. Which, yeah, I was. And he looked at me and like, yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So, but what I saw in Colby, which I didn't know him at the time, like, it was so much joy and so much happiness and just peace and just him being able to talk like freely and people applauding to that and just saying amen and like just all of that authenticity that I had never had. That hooked me. And I was like, I want that. Like, I want it. And part of me wanted it, but the gang side of me, it was like, I'll never get to do that. I'm so messed up. everything that I have done, this is people that have grown up with 2 parents and this sweet home and everything that, like can happen. So I did 2 years. I did regeneration.
And real quick, for those that don't know what regeneration is, it's a year-long program that is basically modeled after AA, and it's a recovery ministry. And so, have you gone through regen? Okay, yeah. Me and Laura have gone through regen, changed our life, and it's basically you come in with hurts and habits, and the gospel infiltrates every single piece of it.
Amen. Yeah.
So keep going.
Colby, my husband, led regen for a while, like the men's director of regen. So that's
And there are, if you are hearing this story and you're like, man, I want to know more about regen, but I don't live in Dallas, check out local churches because a lot of ministries across the country actually have this program now.
Yeah, you can literally Google regeneration location finder.
Yeah.
And there's a site that comes up, but it's not just for people who have been in the gangs or like,
Totally.
I mean, Colby's all tatted up too. So I feel like you're probably, this is my bro. But
Like I was there for an eating disorder.
Yeah. And I was literally like, I'm not even really sure why I'm here, but like, I know that I have more. So then like through going through it, you start uncovering, oh, there's self-worth, there's pride, there's,
Totally.
you know, so it's
and
you get free.
They have a whole list at the beginning of all kind of struggles that you may have, and
You're like all of them.
literally, you come
Yeah.
in, and you're like, oh, I struggle with this, and then you look at this list and you're like, oh, tough. I didn't know that I struggled with all of them.
Can I go through this thing again?
Yeah.
No, it's really cool. I think so. The healthiest people in the Christian faith are the ones who are very aware of their brokenness, and I think we've had this long-term standing of the church where people just pretend and people act and people feel good about the things that they're doing, and actually the healthy people are the ones who will sit there and tell you their testimony and you're like, did you really just say that? And you feel uncomfortable. It's because they're actually healthy. They're free enough to tell about it. You know what I mean? Free people by telling people they're crap.
Come on.
Which like, okay, I need it right. Okay, but like I'm on the edge of my seat. I need to know what happened after. Okay, so you went to regen.
Yes, I did.
And you went for 2 years.
Yes.
That's where you left off.
Yes. And then those 2 years, as y'all know, regen brings everything up to the surface. Everything that you don't want to talk about, that you don't want to think about, like it comes up. And that was in those 2 years since I accepted the gospel. And that was so cool about it. That at that point, now looking back, now I know that the Holy Spirit, whenever you accept the gospel, in my mind, I was like, okay, this dude, Jesus, God, whatever, are going to come to me and are going to start fixing everything from outside in, like my scenarios, everything. But the Holy Spirit doesn't work like that. God doesn't work like that. The Bible says that God cares about your heart. And so from the moment we accept him, he comes into our hearts and start working from inside out. I didn't know that. And so at this whole point, I'm expecting something miraculous to happen. But all I was coming through it was all my feelings, everything from the inside out, like coming out. And I'm like, I feel so sick. I feel like I'm worse than what I was whenever I was in the gangs. And so on January 18, I come to a point where I was like, hey, I tried it for 2 years. Didn't work out. I did all this God, Jesus stuff, Christianity, blah, blah, whatever. I know that the gangs, whenever they find out that I'm not doing it anymore, like they are going to kill me. So therefore, I'm going to kill myself. So January 18, grabbed the gun. I was completely tired and just out of it. Like didn't want to live anymore. So much chaos in my mind, in my life, that I didn't talk to nobody about. Like I didn't tell people. I did regen, but I didn't tell them what was going on. I would just tell them like, hey, I'm here because I was in the gangs. I struggle with this. I struggle with that. And you don't need to know no more because I don't know you. And that's it. And so I wasn't speaking. I was in regen, but I wasn't speaking to nobody. And that was killing me in the inside. So I grabbed the gun, put it in my face, pulled the trigger, and the bullet didn't go through it. And then
the amount of times you have escaped death.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Literally, my heart just sunk. I was like,
yeah.
what happened? Okay.
Yeah. So pulled it, didn't go through, grabbed the gun, looked at it, checked it, didn't jam or anything. It just, the bullet didn't go through. And grabbed it, pulled the trigger to the ground, fire, the bullet goes through it. Whenever that bullet goes through it, something hit me in my heart. And I started crying. Just crying. I couldn't stop crying. And the first thing that it came to my mind, it was Cooper Wagner. He was the director of the college ministry at Watermark. And I call him and I'm like, dude, I'm messed up. I just tried to call myself. Like, I need help. Like, literally right now, I'm at the point of like, if I don't do something about it, if I don't act on it, I'm gonna end up killing myself somehow. And I don't want that. I know that I need help. So he invited me to a conference in Sky Ranch that the college ministry was gonna have. And so I went, and then somebody came and spoke and gave their testimony in there. And that person, it was same thing that I saw in Regeneration in front of that stage. Like, similar situation. This dude just talking, giving his testimony, happy, so much joy, so much peace, and talking about Jesus and everything. And I'm over here listening, and that's not my testimony. I'm like, how can you say that Jesus has given you this joy, this peace, and everything, but all he has given me is chaos and all of this, like that it has led me to the point of killing myself, trying to kill myself. And so whenever he shared his testimony at the end, he ended up praying, and for anybody that he was struggling, that they would find freedom. And that hit me again. And I started just crying again. Same thing that it happened whenever that bullet went through happened right then. And so I ended up seeking this dude, trying to talk to him. And I was like, bro, I need to talk to you. I have a huge testimony I have never shared with nobody, but for whatever reason, I need to share it with you. And so ended up doing it. Him and I got connected afterwards, talked for like 3 hours on the phone, me telling him, like, just throwing up everything that I have ever done, everything that I was in the gangs and everything. This dude is like, wait, what? Like, what? Hold on. Like, it just like that. And I tell him, like, 2 weeks ago, I tried to kill myself and didn't happen. And that's the reason why I'm here. And he was like, he started laughing. And I'm like, dude, why are you laughing? Like, I'm literally
this ain't funny.
I'm telling you how messed up I am, and you're laughing. And he's like, dude, I'm sorry, but I'm laughing because my God has a character and he's funny. And I was like, okay. Like, I need you to quickly start saying more. And he's like, 2 weeks ago on this day, we were praying. My team and I were praying. He was helping with the porch at that time. He was like, my team and I asked me, hey, what is something that God is putting in your heart that we need to pray for? And he was like, God put in my heart to pray for anybody that is trying to commit suicide right at this very moment. Across.
It was Grant.
Grant Trial. Yeah. Grant Trial. Like, he was doing that. And so he told me that literally the same time that he's praying that, across Dallas, Texas, I'm over here trying to kill myself. And he told me that. I was like, yeah, whatever, right? Like, yeah. And then he was like, no, for real, dude. Like, there's people that can testify. And so he took me to the group that did that. And people ended up testifying that it was true, that he had prayed for anybody that was trying to commit suicide. And that person was me. And from that moment on, I was like, what in the heck? Like, I mean, if God is real and prayers of a righteous person don't have power, then I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? But I'm like,
and let me pause right here because I know, like, this is going to bring up other things for other people because there are people listening to this episode who have been impacted by suicide and it has gone through. And you're like, I prayed for that person and I loved that person and it still happened. And so for you, I am so incredibly sorry. We're so incredibly sorry. And God still loves you. Yeah. And God still has a plan. And that is a dark, dark place. And there is so much hope. We'd love to point you in the right direction. So message us. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So him and I ended up doing Bible study. And he's like, hey, I'm going to walk you through the book of John. And now at this point is whenever I met Covey. Because he's like, I'm going to walk you through the book of John, and also you need to meet this dude. And next thing I know, I'm talking to Covey, and I'm like, you look so familiar, bro. And Covey's just sitting there, and like, then afterwards, I put it together that was the dude that he was so freely speaking his testimony in the stage. So God literally put me in this church full of, like, great people that are on fire for the Lord. And they start, like, discipling me. They start, like, showing me what it means to be on fire for the Lord. And so I start seeing all of this. I start reading the Bible. And I'm like, hey, dude, I have a bunch of questions about this God. And then he points me to Matthew 7. And he's like, okay, like where it says, ask, seek, and knock, and you'll find answers. Doors are going to be open and everything. And God wants us to ask questions. I was like, I bet you better be ready because your homie over here has a lot of questions. A lot of
Saddle
them.
up.
And that was the thing. Like, it was, so from that moment on is whenever I was like January 31st at 7 p.m. 2021. Yeah. I gave my life to Christ fully. And I was like, God, I'm yours. I'm able and available. Like, take me, do whatever you want with me. I'm yours. The only reason that I'm alive is because of you. And so from that moment on, I've been doing everything that he puts in my path. Even if I don't want it, if I don't like it, if it's tough, it don't matter how hard it gets. Like, I'll go through it by the people that are next to me. And that's whenever I start finding out that, truly speaking, what you're going through, having community, how huge it is and how needed it is. Because the devil wants to create division, and once he creates division, he puts doubts in our minds, and then it's a roller coaster from then. And so that's what I start learning, and I start praying and just asking God, all right, like, if you're the God who you say that you are, like the God of Moses, the God of David, the God of Daniel, the God of the Bible, heal me. Like, I have PTSD, I have done all of this, I have guilt, I have anxiety, I have suicidal thoughts, I have all of this. Like, here's my list. Heal me. I want healing. Like, I cannot serve a God if I don't have peace in my heart. And even Paul, I ended up reading the life of Paul, who Paul was, and that brought a lot of healing because in my mind, I was like, the Bible is just full of holy people. I mean, it's called the Holy Bible. And then I find out that my homie Paul was in, and he has created or written half of the New Testament and who he was.
This dude knows prison.
Exactly.
This dude's killed people. Like, he my boy.
Yeah, I was like, dude, you're my OG, like, literally. And so I start finding all of that out, and I'm like, okay, bet. So the God that I'm serving, like, the dude that he was the OG in my gang, that dude nobody. But now the gang that I'm in it, that's a real OG. And I was like, he has literally this book full of broken people who has like literally given me every answer that I need. And he wants me to be part of his gang. He wants me to like literally do everything that I was taught to do in prison or in the gangs. He wants me to do it now for him. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. And that's where I came to Unashamed. And I had never shared, I didn't know what Unashamed was. Like, funny enough, I came and I had, at this point, since I was a professional athlete, I had so much opportunities to go and do other things. And I told Grant, I was like, hey, bro, like, somebody reach out that I have a chance to go pro again. And he was like, yeah, I'm not doing it. Like, on that day, on Friday, I need you to show up at Watermark. There is this ministry called Unashamed. You got to come. I want you to do it. It's going to be fun. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go sign with these people about this so I can go pro again. He's like, nah, you're not. You're doing this. So I was like, okay, whatever. So the day came. I found myself driving towards Frisco. And then somehow I take a detour and I ended up in Watermark.
Which Frisco is the opposite way.
Yeah.
It's not on the way to Unashamed.
Yeah. And so
Jonah going to Nineveh.
So yeah, I ended up myself in Watermark. I found myself in Watermark, and then I came in. I was sitting, and then out of nowhere, Laura comes in and just hyping everybody, just talking about God, and like she starts saying, "We're gonna go share the gospel," and blah blah. And I'm over here, wait, what?
Yeah. Like Grant Trout, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, who signed me up for this? And like, who told me to do this? Long story short, that weekend, I was so mad because I got pretty much put in a place that I didn't want to be into. And I had just becoming a Christian, and I was supposed to go to the streets and tell people about it. Where I was like, hey, I know from my past that whenever you go and try to press the gospel into somebody that he has had a bad day and is not for it, they can end up putting a bullet on you. So I don't want to do that. And ended up going, I was having panic attacks, anxiety attacks, every kind of attacks you can imagine I was having. Yeah. And the dude that I got paired with, we went to this park in Dallas and shared the gospel. And he was like, okay, we're going to do it. You're going to do it with me and blah, blah, and this and that. We got to this place and my homie left me. And I was left alone.
Homie.
I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And then this dude was walking his dog and he had a pit bull. I love pit bulls. And I start petting the dog and the guy is tied it up and he looked at me and he's like, so what are you doing? And I'm like, what can I tell you, man? Like, I'm here with a group, like, talking, like, supposed to share about Jesus and everything. And I didn't know what to say, how to say it. And so he started asking me questions and I was just answering the questions. And he's like, oh, that's so cool. And so that guy ended up sharing the gospel somehow with that guy. I didn't know what I was doing, but I shared the gospel and he was like, dude, I want that. And he ended up accepting Jesus Christ.
You can't make this up.
He ended up accepting the gospel, and I'm over here like trying to tell him like what to do whenever I'm still trying to find out what to do. And then I remember that before we left, she was like, okay, we gotta, and the Bible says this and that. And so after I'm done talking to this dude, I'm like, wait, hold on, I'm supposed to, what up, bro? Like,
welcome to the room.
Welcome in.
He's like, I want some of that gospel too.
Yeah, like I'm like, hey, somehow I'm supposed to say something from this book to you. So like, but I don't know what I'm supposed to say. So just know that the Bible, you need it. And I was like, there's this church over there, and so I was about to get up, and I'm like, wait, hold on, I'm supposed to pray for you, bro. Like, can I pray for you? He's like, yeah, I was going to ask you if you were going to pray for me.
That's so funny.
And I'm like, oh, tough. Like, I'm literally freestyling everything at this point.
It's perfect.
Because I didn't know what was I supposed to be doing. And so that was so funny because that, like, brought up a fire in me. And I came back too unashamed. Like, we went back to the church and I was like, if that's what it means to share the gospel and seeing somebody face whenever they encounter Jesus, like what you were saying earlier, like just the peace and everything and how their life changed and all of it, like, if that's what it means, I want it. Like, I want that. And from that moment on, I start sharing the gospel with, dogs, anything. Like,
you literally haven't stopped. So it's amazing.
Yeah, so I went back to Unashamed the next time they had it, and I just started to really like dig into what it means to share the gospel and what it means to have a relationship with God. And since then, like, God has been freeing me from so much, like literally everything that I used to struggle with. God has been freeing me up. And if he hasn't freed me up, like, he has given me the answers of what to do whenever those struggles come, whenever the enemy hits. Hey, what I need to do, what posture does my heart needs to be like? Do I need to pray? Like who I need to call, contact, message, or anything whenever the enemy is attacking. Like, there is so much stuff that I still have PTSD. And now that I am married, like, I struggle with so many other things that I thought that I was completely healed from, but I haven't yet. Like, I haven't yet been healed from, but I have the answers to it. I have the instructions on how to live my life now. And
so good.
And it's been like, literally, it's been only 4 years, but I feel like it's been my whole life, like my whole life of being a Christian. And yeah, man, like, I went to a program called Kanikak Institute, and I went because I wanted to learn all about him. Like, I was like, hey, if I'm going to put my life on God, like, if he's my OG, I need to know who he is. I need to know the history, the theology. I need to know everything about him, because I grew up in the gangs, and now Christianity is my gang. Like, I have like a hashtag called Kingdom Gang, because that's my gang. Like, that's who I serve now, and I recruit. I recruit people. I share the gospel. I bring people into my gang, and I want them to know who my OG is, and I want to be as much as I can like my OG. And so that I did that year program, and then I thought I was gonna go around the country and be a speaker and do this kind of stuff, but then God was like, no, I have a different life for you. Like, I want you to do, or at least for right now, I want you to do this. And I'm doing aviation. I'm now a pilot, trying to get my hours to be able to become a airline pilot, if that's what he has for me. But through that, like he allowed me to find healing in so many areas, because as I was saying, like for the longest I grew up thinking that I was a convict. And even a year ago, people would ask me, and whenever they would ask who's Franklin, the first thing that it would come to mind is like, I'm a convict. And so through through aviation, I had to send my fingerprints and everything to the FBI. And in April, a year ago, April 12th, I was in Branson, Missouri in a Starbucks, and I was just doing my Bible study, and out of nowhere, the phone rings. I saw it, and it was a private call, and I'm like, okay. And so picked up the phone, and they're like, hey, this is so-and-so speaking. I'm looking for Mr. Rivas. And I was like, okay. And they were like, oh, you have sent your fingerprints to us and everything. So it was the FBI. And whenever they said that, my heart dropped. I was like, oh, tough. And at this point, I was doing a Bible study in Philippians 1, where Paul talks, he's in prison, and he says that if he's in prison, whatever he is, that his goal is for the gospel to be shared. And I was like, God, if you want me back in prison, I'm gonna make sure that prison is gonna become a church, because I'm gonna be sharing the gospel anywhere I am, and even if that means that I'm in handcuffs, I'll share the gospel and I'll make you known. And so my heart was in peace with that, if that was he had for me. And so that call with the FBI, they were like, Mr. Rivas, like, we have your record in front of us and everything. And I was like, oh my, okay, let me know where I have to report and I'll go. And she was like, your record is clear. Like, you have nothing in your records. Like, and I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she was like, yeah, Mr. Franklin Rivas. And this is she gave me all my information. She told me where I'm from and everything. And she's like, your record is clear. I was like, there's no way. And my heart dropped, and literally I just hit my knees in the floor in Starbucks. I hit my knees and I just started crying and crying. And somebody came and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, even if I tell you, you have no idea. Like, the information that I just got, like knowing that I'm no longer a convict, or the one thing that I thought that it was going to hold me back or haunt me for the rest of my life, I just now got told that I'm clear, that I'm washed white as snow, as it says in the Old Testament in Ezekiel. And so that's where I know that I got to find that out only because of aviation, because of the path that God was like, hey, I want you to do this now. And if that's the only reason that I'm in aviation now, then let it be it. Praise the Lord, because since then I knew that I was a free man, but now I know that I am a free man, like in a whole different level. And so I called my wife right away, told my parents, and they were like, what in the heck? Like, clearly. And I know that that's not the case for many people. I know that there's many people that may have a background or have going through other things that are still in their record. But the truth is that we serve a God that forgives, a God who is powerful, and we are the ones that put him in a box. And it depends on how small, how big the box is. If you don't get God out of that box, he's never going to do anything that you want him to do. And I had him in a box of like, hey, I'm a convict and that's all I am. And he was like, you don't belong in that box. Like, you belong in this whole world that I have created, not for this life, but for heaven. And now I'm a free man. And that's who I am. That's what he says that I am and who he says that I am. And I believe that. And the enemy has no hold on me anymore. And he tries and tries, and as I said it, I still struggle and everything, but I have my instructions. I have what I need in order to be a great husband, in order to be a great follower, in order to be a great friend, in order to be a great dad one day if he wants me to be a dad. And so, yeah, so now that's what I'm doing, and I'm back in the area, and yeah, so that's the testimony that God has allowed me to have.
And for anyone listening to this who is like, okay, well, for me, it hasn't been gangs and prison and near-death experiences, like there are probably a lot of people listening to this who are handcuffed, who are close to ending their lives, who are feeling like just holding the weight of I'm a convict in a different way. Like I'm a slut, or I'm a cheater, or I mean, you name it. I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm worthless, I'm a drunk, I'm whatever it is. I am the sum of my abuse. Like that's what I am.
The abuser.
I'm the abuser.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity, like right now, to call somebody and say, this is my story. This is what I'm walking through. I know that Jesus is real. And I need your help to get there. I need your help to get free from these chains. I need your help to move from feeling like this to, oh my gosh, I'm a free person. Who doesn't have to be known by my past, who doesn't have to be known by what happened yesterday or what happened this morning or what's happened to me all throughout my life. I can be known as somebody who is marked by the blood of Jesus, who is clean, who is whole, who has a new life. And from now can be the day that you're like, hey, from now on, this is the whole 4 years that feel like my whole life, because following Jesus is the best thing that I've ever done. And maybe it's for you just being like mobilized to actually go out and share the gospel because you're complacent and you're going to church every Sunday and your life is miserable and you're full of anxiety because you've never stepped outside of yourself to say there are more people out here who need the truth, and I have something to share. I have the best news that has ever existed, and I'm sleeping on it. I'm literally sitting here when it could save your life.
Come on.
So...
And it's like, that's why we share the gospel. Like, you're literally the picture perfect of like the prodigal son. Like, you've done everything, you squandered it all, and it wasn't because you earned it, it wasn't because you deserved it, it's just because you came home. And like when you were talking, I just felt like I kept hearing the line like, welcome home, son, welcome home, son. And you didn't do anything. And like, that is why Christianity is so countercultural, because everything in our life is you have to earn, you have to do, you have to strive, you have to be. It's like, oh, you want to be chosen? Here's a list of things you have to do in order for a guy to choose you. Oh, you want to get this type of job? You need to get these type of degrees. God's like, no, you literally just have to roll into church after you almost got shot, and I will freaking clean you up. Like, let me do the heavy lifting. Let me do the hard work. Like, just come home and I will do all of it. And like, guys, like, this is the gospel that Jesus died for you so that you could be set free from everything in your past. And all you have to do is admit. Like, all you did was admit. And God took care of the rest. And it's just this crazy story of like, my heart breaks for those that are like, I don't understand how I could just do that. It's because you are still trying to do something. It's like you're still striving, you're still doing. When God is like, no, I did all of it on the cross. And what I love about you is that you were looking for identity in everything before. And like, you just said it like, I found it. Like, I found my identity, and it isn't in anything I've done. It's not in your accomplishments. It's not even in the fact that I was a convict and now I'm clean. Like, your identity is Christ did it all. I did nothing but like Jesus. And so when you get to hear like, what's my identity? It's Jesus. It's not like, oh, I was this and now I'm this. It's like, no, like there's still nothing good in me apart from Jesus, because you didn't do any of the things that you did. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't clean yourself up. You didn't get yourself to church. Like, God rescued you every single time. He will continue to rescue you every single day until you walk into the gates of heaven. And then you get to fall on your knees in the actual presence of the King of the universe and go, come on, you did it. And like, that is why we have this freaking podcast, because we want you to hear, like, you get to stop striving. You get to start resting. You want to be broken free from the eating disorder? It's not by doing, it's by saying, God, like, I need help. And I'm just like, man, frick, I've got so many questions, but like, I'm so encouraged. Like, I don't even know, man. I'm like,
I know, we're just having worship here. I mean, this is worship. It's worship. Like, our God is so incredible. Oh my gosh. There's really so much power in storytelling. So if you've never told your story, find Franklin, like hit up Franklin. Like, we need to even just release some resources of like how to share your story. Cause I didn't think I had a story, coming into the church. I'm like, oh shoot, I share my story all the time now. And it's one of the most powerful tools you have. But like, God is a great story writer, and you might be in a terrible part of yours or a part that you hate, and wait till God redeems it. But we love you guys. We'll link your stuff, Franklin, in the show notes so they can find you. And he is a great example to follow, so go follow him on social. And we love you, brother, so much. And I'm glad we get to be friends. I'm glad that we're, part of the fam, and
and part of this your story. Like you and Colby
so
played
sweet.
a story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over here like my husband is so freaking hot, dude. I don't even know what to tell you. I'm just like I'm drooling right now.
That's my honey.
That is my honey, and that is why I married him. Woo! I gotta call you guys back. I gotta go.
But y'all, we love you guys, and just we're so thankful for you. And last but not least, I love how your story is a lot about abuse, and we are partnering with the Worthy Co. Like we mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, and it is incredible ministry. So if you're even sitting here going, "That's not part of my story," but I want to help other people break free from that being part of their story, reach out to Worthy Co. because not only do they sell amazing jewelry and sweatshirts, but they have opportunities to serve. They have classes you can take of how to help women be set free, and it literally is because they realize, man, I have been washed by the blood of the Lamb.
Yes, helping give people their life back. And their dignity back, like things that were stolen from them. It's so cool. We'll also link them in the show notes. So Worthy Co. is going to be linked down below.
But y'all, we love you guys. Thanks for being here, Franklin. And
thank you.
Of course, and have a great week.
Y'all do as well. Hey guys, thank you so much, and keep on following this and keep on reaching out. Please reach out in any way that y'all can, want, or need. Reach out to them, reach out to myself. And we love y'all. We'll be praying for y'all. And thank you so much for having me here. Like, this is so fun. Literally, like, love the vibe.
We love it.
Peace.
Bye, guys.